Yo guys, in this video I'll show you how to use the main features of GitHub Copilot, an AI assistant that integrates directly with your IDE and understands your whole codebase. Even if you tried it before, this will be helpful. I'll start with the basics and move to more and more advanced features toward the end of this video. Your coding workflow will be transformed forever in these 15 minutes and you'll stand out in the market with your development speed and efficiency. So let's jump right into it. I've navigated to my IDE and I opened the repo, which is just a checkers game. It's web-based, it is using React, and it is pretty simple. I used Claude Sonnet model to generate this game, and I will tell about this model a bit further. It is just as simple as having a single component, which is a game board, which is responsible for pretty everything in this game. Here we have some methods that allow this game to be playable. What I want to do now, I want to add a new feature. Let's imagine that you are playing from the same laptop with your friend and you want a feature to rotate the board so that your opponent can see the board from his or her perspective. To implement this feature, I will use GitHub Copilot, of course, and we will start from the simplest but very useful feature of GitHub Copilot, code completion. And to use it, what you need to do is to just write the code, and while you are writing, Copilot will start to make suggestions how it thinks you want it to complete this line or even the whole function body. As far as we want to rotate the board, I will start creating a new function. We will call it rotate board, and we already see that there is a ghost text. This is already a Copilot suggestion, and if I hover the mouse over this ghost code, I can see that it is one of one suggestion. Sometimes we will see more than one, then we can switch between them using these arrows. And there are two main actions. One is to accept the whole suggestion or accept the word by word. So now I am clicking Command and right arrow, and I am accepting it token by token, or I can click Tab to accept the whole suggestion. Let's close these braces, and as far as I moved into the functions body, I get the next suggestion. So what it wants to do is to create a new variable which rotates the board vertically, I believe. And now we can see there are two suggestions. The second suggestion is the same, but it's pretty corrupted. Want to mention that I'm using the pre-release Copilot version. It's like a public beta and it is pretty raw, and sometimes anything can be broken, but I like to be the first who sees the new features, so I am using it. Let's go with this suggestion. I will accept it by clicking the Tab button on my keyboard, and now when we have the rotate board method created, we want to use it somewhere. Definitely it will be on UI. Here the template is very simple. We have the board itself. I'll collapse it. And we have the game over section, which allows us to restart the game. So somewhere here below the board, I want to use the new button, and it already guessed that as far as we have the unused method here, that we want to use it here. I'm pretty fine with it. This is exactly what I wanted to do. The only thing is that I want to create something like a wrapper block for the actions in case we will have the other actions in our game, and I also want to showcase the other method of prompting the code suggestions. So I will copy the prompts that I have, and here I am telling Copilot that I want to add a new section that contains the game actions, and the first action will be the button to rotate the board. And as I go to a new line, I already get the suggestion, which is exactly what I wanted to see, so I accept it and it closes the div. That's cool. And I don't want to see this comment here anymore, but sometimes it's really useful for other developers to see what this code block does. So you can leave such comments if you want. In matter of just, I don't know, few minutes or even much faster if I wouldn't describe everything. We created a new feature. The only thing is that we don't know if it works, and always check what AI assistant generated for you. When it generates the code, there is no guarantee that this code is executable or is it secure or if it does what you wanted. So you should always test what your AI assistant generated, as you do when you write the code by yourself. And this is why it's called Copilot, because you are the main pilot and it is just your assistant who makes you faster, who does the routine job for you. We now want to test this code, and we will do this by using another Copilot's feature called Copilot Chat. Chat is the most powerful and I think the most useful Copilot feature that it currently has. If I click on this little arrow near the Copilot button, I can see the Open Chat command. In my case, it's here. Let's go quickly through the interface of the chat. Here we have two tabs. One is that we're using right now, it's a usual chat, and another one is Copilot Edits. To keep it short, I want to keep Copilot Edits out of scope of this video. So here is the button to create a new chat. To go to the chat's history, there are other actions which are not much useful. And here we have the prompt input. So here we write our instructions to the AI assistant. Down below we have a list of the context, what Copilot should be aware of to answer your question. And by default, it's always the current file that is open here. Down below we have the chat with extension button, which is really useful. I also won't cover it much in this video, but GitHub team calls them agents. It is really useful to make Copilot's job better. Here we have this attachment button. By clicking on it, we can attach the context. So if we want not only the current file to be in Copilot's context, we can also add it here. I'll show it a bit later. And also the voice chat. If you don't want or if you cannot type your prompt, you can use this button to just dictate. And my favorite feature is to use the model. Why it's my favorite? Because previously Copilot only had the GPT-based models. And as far as GitHub associated with Microsoft, and Microsoft is associated with OpenAI, as you know, but recently they added my favorite and no-brainer model for coding. It's Claude 3.5 Sonnet. And this is the model that I always use. I never switch to any other model. You can choose it by your own, but this is definitely my recommendation in this case. What we wanted to do is we wanted to test if our rotation functionality works fine. Let's assume it's the first time we are in this repository. We don't know how it works and we want to somehow run it and see our feature on UI. If we don't know how to run it, if we never worked with NPM packages, we can just ask Copilot, and it is pretty easy to know how the app works. So I will ask, how do I run this app? And when I hit enter, it starts to analyze my workspace, and it used 17 references from the repo that Copilot thought would be relevant. And based on the package.json, this is also a file in my repository that it found on its own. It just suggests that we need to run the npm start command. When we have the terminal commands here in the response, we can see there is a nice button, insert into terminal. So I can click on it and it just pastes it here, very handy. And here we have our checkers game opened. Indeed, it worked. And we see this rotate board button, which is not really stylish, but we didn't ask for it. So if I click it now, yes, the board is rotated. The only thing that I don't like is that it is rotated only vertically, but not horizontally. And this looks pretty weird. So what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna ask Copilot Chat to fix this issue. Let's go back to IDE. And now I will create a new chat so that it loses the context from the previous conversation, and let's ask it to do the following. And let's see if it understands, because my prompt was really general and I didn't provide any details. And yes, it understood this, and we have a code snippet to insert. And if we hover over it with the mouse, there is a nice button to apply this in editor, which I always use. If I click on it, Copilot starts to analyze this file to understand where these changes should be pasted, and it did it right. Remember to always accept the changes before you save the file, and now the file is saved. Let's go back to the browser and rotate the board one more time. Yes, now everything is really correct and seems to work fine. I can move the pieces and we see the bug. Despite the black player already moved his piece, he can do one more move and one more and one more, and this is not correct. They should walk sequentially. So this is one more thing I want Copilot to resolve. Again, let's create a new chat and describe our issue and ask to resolve it. I described the issue. Again, Copilot used one reference, which is our board component, and let's see if it succeeds in fixing it. So I can see it updates the states so that we always know what is the current player. Handle square click. Do we have such method? Yeah, we have such method, and it edited it. Let's just trust it because we can test it afterwards. Again, I clicked the apply in editor button. It analyzes the code. Yes, we want to accept the changes here, and we want to accept this change. The only thing is that the initial state, the reds go first, usually. There are no more changes, and we have a bug. The issue is that there is no such function makeMove, which it tries to call here. It's definitely an issue. It used the method that is not here, really, and I want it to fix it. And let's see what it does. It wants us to create a makeMove function. Let's add such a method. Again, by using the apply in editor. Let's accept it. It does something, but now the code compiles fine. So if we return to the board, I go with red, and now red cannot do more moves. This is cool. Yeah, now they walk one after the other, and that's exactly correct. Let's check the console if we have any errors. No errors here. This is really nice. Okay, and now let's go to the next practice section. I want to showcase how the context works. So as far as no one likes these row buttons, right? It's just an HTML button without the styles. Let's use Copilot context to stylish it somehow. I'll go here, and we have this button here, and here are our styles. Let's ask Copilot to make this button stylish. I will create a new chat for this as usually, and I'll describe a problem. And as far as it needs to add some class to this button, and it is located here, but it also needs to implement some styles which are located in board CSS file, we need to add more context. This is always a good practice. If you don't add the context, Copilot will try to do it by itself, but it's usually not the best idea. If you definitely know what the context is, always share it with Copilot. It will save you lots and lots of time. So what I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna hit Command/, and here we have several options. You can play with them on your own. All of them are really useful and nice, but at the moment I want to point to a board TSX file. And now we have both files here as the context for our prompt. Let's fire enter and see if Copilot successfully makes our button stylish. Good, so here are the CSS changes. Okay, let's apply them. Maybe it's a good idea for all the buttons in this container to have the same styles. Maybe that's really nice. We don't know as far as we have only one button now. And yes, we have the button, which is more stylish now. It has the hover effect, really nice. And of course, it still works fine. I really love it. So remember to always provide the correct context for Copilot to understand your needs. The better you are in providing the best possible context for your AI assistants, the better job it will do for you. This is like the main rule to work with AI assistants, especially for coding, and always stick to it. And the last feature I wanted to showcase is quick chat options that we have here. So if I now go to port CSS file and select the code that relates to the button, our rotate board button that we created, here I can enter the editor inline chat. So this is just a prompt input that is placed here in the editor. And here I want to use the same model that we use everywhere, and let's ask it to make the button more stylish. So I don't use inline chat very often, to be honest. However, it is really useful if you don't need the chat history or a long conversation, you want to do something quickly. And in this case, it is really useful. It just edits the code in the editor where you already are, and that's it. So let's accept this change and see how it looks right now. And yeah, the button is really stylish. It is even jumping and it has a cool animation, and this is really cool. And another similar thing is the quick chat. If we click on this option, we are seeing pretty similar behavior, but here we can also pass the context, which is like inline chat that we've just seen but on steroids. So I'll ask it to make the button even more stylish. Let's see what it does. Okay, it provided a lot of styles here, and as in the usual chat, here we also have the apply in editor button. I will click it and close the quick chat panel. Seems very stylish, so I'll accept these changes, save the file, and wow. Now it is really stylish. I really like it. So inline chat and quick chat are the quick options for you to interact with Copilot without opening one more panel that eats a lot of space. And if you don't want to have a long conversation, you are pretty sure Copilot will do the hit from the first shot. This is a nice feature to use. You did it! This was it about the basics of working with Copilot, and if you want more of it, drop a comment under this video and I'll create more detailed guides about specific features and use cases. If you learned something new, you can thank me by hitting the like button. It is my first YouTube video and the first video on this channel, so I'll really appreciate if you do me such a favor. Subscribe to this channel and I'll make you happy with the next videos about the best AI tools for coding and how to apply them smartly. Peace guys, and see you in the next videos.